Security revealed a single dad's bag. What his mother unexpectedly said transformed the atmosphere. Michael's heart raced, pulsing in rhythm with the fluorescent lights above him as he walked his usual route through the community college parking lot. A chill wind bit at his cheeks, but it was nothing compared to the biting resentment gnawing at him. Single parenthood loomed like a weighted hand on his back, a constant reminder of responsibility that left him teetering near the edge. He eyed the scattering of cars and the neighbors' watchful eyes always lingering. Was he their fading hope or just another statistic in a neighborhood on the brink? The weight felt insurmountable. He turned a corner when something caught his eye: a forgotten gym bag, worn and weathered, sitting like an abandoned dream on the pavement. Michael hesitated, grappling with the habitual instinct to walk past. But curiosity tugged, drawing him closer as if its contents could light a spark in his own dimming aspirations. With one cautious pull of the zipper, he was met with an explosion of chaotic life: a cascade of textbooks, notebooks filled with scribbled hopes, and a color-coded schedule mapping out someone's bright future. A future that seemed worlds away from his own. His fingers brushed a notebook laden with intricate doodles and ambitious goals when a voice, striking and familiar, tore through his thoughts. Michael. The name hung in the air, weighty and uninvited. He froze, heart sinking as he turned around. There stood Clara. His estranged mother, the woman whose absence for years had shaped every doubt and insecurity in him. The silence between them crackled, electric with the years of unspoken pain. "How's your life, Michael?" she asked, eyes scanning his face, searching for a trace of the boy she had left behind. He felt an overwhelming urge to mask the turmoil churning inside him: a security officer, a provider, a father uninspired but striving. Yet, the years of estrangement burrowed deep with unresolved questions. Did she see him as he was, or as just another failure? Did he now mirror the very shortcomings he had resented her for? "I'm doing what I can," he managed, voice rough. It felt inadequate, a shield that crumbled under her scrutiny. She began to speak, from a place of regret, sharing her own sacrifices and the dreams crushed along with their relationship. As she opened up, the stark realization hit him: a tether between their stories began to form. In the flicker of regret and understanding, their shared burden felt equal. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Yet as they spoke, doubt choked Michael. Could he repeat the cycle of disappointment? He felt his resolve waver, the facade of strength faltering. The legacy of unfulfilled dreams loomed overhead. Could they truly rise together? Could he overcome what he feared? The tension stretched the air around them, thick with unresolved anguish. He glanced at Clara, searching her face for answers, for assurance, but what he found was the same doubt reflected back. Could forgiveness grow here, amidst the shadows of their splintered past? "Can we really do something with this?" he whispered, the haunted question hanging between them like an echo, waiting for a response as heavy as the weight of a dream long delayed. Michael felt the weight of Clara's gaze upon him, a mirror reflecting years of pain and unfulfilled potential. The question he posed lingered, heavy with the gravity of their shared history. In that moment, he yearned not just for answers, but for a glimpse of the man he could become, a father who didn't shy from confrontation with the past. Clara's expression softened, surprising him. "I believe we can," she said quietly, but the uncertainty in her voice echoed against the emotional barricade he had built. His mind swirled with memories of adolescence, moments of bitterness bred from her absence, the empty spaces in his life where a mother's nurturing could have been. He wondered if this was a fleeting flicker of hope or just another delusion he dared to entertain. As the two of them stood in the parking lot, the gym bag's contents sitting at their feet, evidence of someone else's ambition, the stark differences between their lives and aspirations struck him like a tidal wave. What if he could channel this moment into something transformative? "Let us start by moving forward," he suggested, surprising himself with his own boldness. What had ignited this spark within him? He was uncertain, but the notion of reclaiming his narrative grew insistent in his mind. You share your regrets, I'll share mine. Clara nodded, and here they were, neither in a rush to fill the void with words, yet both needing to unpack years of heartache. Beneath the fluorescent lights, they exchanged a cautious dialogue that danced along the edges of vulnerability. Michael confessed the weight of fatherhood, the suffocating fear he was failing his son, Max, by not being enough. These revelations felt like unearthing logs concealed in a forest, a slow, painstaking process, but one that held the promise of clearing the path ahead. In return, Clara divulged tales of her struggles, how choices spiraled out of control, designations of motherhood slipping through her fingers as easily as sand. Hearing her words, Michael grappled with his emotional response, a mixture of empathy and resentment ignited within him. Was it fair to carry her burdens alongside his own? Yet with each revelation, a strange clarity emerged, a sense that understanding might just be the first step toward healing. Moments passed as they lingered in discomfort, each of them digging deeper within. Then, without warning, the quiet splendor was shattered by a distant car alarm, a reminder of the world outside their fraught reconciliation. Michael gazed toward the sound, the effort of dismantling the past beginning to feel overwhelming. Would this openness lead him closer to redemption, or only to deeper confusion? Can we keep doing this? He asked, desperation tinged in his voice. I think I need your help to figure things out. Clara's eyes twinkled with an emotion he mistook for hope, yet something about it felt fragile. They stood on a precipice, the possibility of a rekindled bond, a life rekindled hovering above them. And just as he contemplated taking that leap, a cloud of doubt swept over him. Meanwhile, the abandoned gym bag sat undisturbed, its contents screaming for intention, for someone to reignite those dreams. Before he could make sense of his own desires and fears, someone else walked into view, a young woman with vibrant energy and an aura that demanded attention. She approached them with purpose, eyes flashing with unfamiliar determination, and Michael's heart raced again. Who was she, and what did she want? The air hung thick with potential, the very tension of unanswered questions creating a fragile electric current. Here he was, on the verge of grappling with his past and striving to build a future, yet another twist awaited him. What revelations awaited in this unexpected encounter? Michael's heart pounded in his chest as the young woman approached, her energy a stark contrast to the heaviness of his conversation with Clara. She was dressed in a sleek workout outfit that hinted at a disciplined lifestyle, and her fiery red hair bounced with every step, making her appear more formidable with each passing moment. Her confident stride demanded attention, and he found himself oddly captivated despite the weight of his own unresolved issues. Excuse me, she said, her voice clear and assertive, I couldn't help but overhear part of your conversation. You're Michael, right? From the old neighborhood? He blinked, startled. The familiar sound of his name felt foreign under her authoritative tone. Yeah, he replied cautiously, gauging her intent. You got me at a disadvantage, I don't know your name. Gia. She flashed a smile that felt both inviting and piercing. I've seen you around with your son. I wanted to say I admire how involved you are. It's rare these days. The compliment hung in the air, but it felt laden with pressure. Was she seeing him or the father he wished to be? He was no stranger to casual admiration, but it often masked deeper expectations he feared he could never meet. Thanks, he managed, shifting his weight as apprehension snaked through him. I'm just trying to do what's right. Right is subjective. Gia's tone shifted, as if she were now assessing his vulnerability. The only thing that matters is whether it feels right to you. Clara, standing silently beside him, seemed intrigued by the dynamic unfolding. Michael's impulse was to dismiss Gia as another distraction from the intimate conversation he had begun with Clara. But there was something about her that felt like a challenge, igniting his previously dormant spirit. Are you here to challenge my perspective on parenting? He asked, half joking but with a genuine thread of curiosity. Maybe, she replied, her expression opening up. Or maybe I'm here to remind you that you're not alone. A lot of people have struggled, but too few actually talk about it. As she spoke, Michael's mind raced. Could he let this unexpected encounter open a door to new insights? He remembered the gym bag at their feet, filled with potential. His connection with Clara felt teetering, yet here was a new component, a different angle to consider. Would discussing his fears with yet another stranger offer him refuge or further complicate his already tangled feelings? Truthfully, Gia continued, I started my own group for parents like you. We share our stories and immediately get to work. Sometimes you just need actionable steps to navigate this whole parenting thing. Michael felt the edges of his insecurity prick as her words resonated deep inside. What if this was what he needed? A structured outlet that could allow him to confront his fears without the weight of past grievances? Maybe it was time to embrace a part of himself he buried in the shadows. A sensible plan formed in his mind, igniting a wisp of excitement. Sounds interesting, he replied, taking a half step forward. What do you contribute as part of this group? Experience, support, and a push when you need it. Gia winked, her demeanor cool yet warm. But you also have to be ready to share your own journey. It can't just be a one-way street. You ready for that? The question hung like a pendulum over him, mirroring his internal struggle with both Clara and his own aspirations. Could he truly be ready to expose the multifaceted layers of his life so openly? Before he could respond, Clara unexpectedly interjected, maybe this is precisely what he needs, Michael. Her support felt unexpected and wielded power. Michael's gaze shifted back to Gia, who stood waiting patiently. How could this chance meeting with someone entirely unconnected to his past bring forth a new pathway? His heart felt buoyant yet heavy with the prospect of change. Could he surrender to the unpredictable nature of this moment? Michael nodded slowly, resolve beginning to solidify in him. All right, I'm in. What's the first step? As they exchanged details, the air shifted, the weight of unspoken worries lightening ever so slightly, revealing a flicker of possibility. Yet beneath his resolve lay the swirling uncertainty. Could he survive the raw exposure of vulnerability he was about to embrace? And what if this budding connection unveiled a truth even more profound than he anticipated? The future loomed ahead, enveloped in mystery, each step toward the unknown replete with both the sting of doubt and promise of growth. The journey ahead awaited transformation, and he felt the first tantalizing tremors of change. But just then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a distant siren blared, jolting him back to his reality, a stark reminder that outside their moment of vulnerability, the world continued, indifferent and unrelenting. Michael stood in the fading light, exchanging contact information with Gia, the weight of her words hanging in the air between them. The world felt at once expansive and constricting. He could see the potential path unfurling, the one towards authenticity and raw vulnerability. Yet, that impending shift awakened something more profound, a deadly flicker of self-doubt that threatened to extinguish the small flame of hope ignited by the conversation. As each moment passed, he felt Clara's watchful gaze pressing against him, a silent challenge of its own. What might she think if he took this leap, if he joined a group that required him to examine the seams of his identity? Her expression shifted from curiosity to concern, and that duality unsettled him. Why are you here? He finally found the courage to ask Clara, the quiet intensity of his voice cutting through the subtle hum of the evening. You could have left with the others when we finished at the park. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her posture poised yet guarded. I thought you might want support. I mean, you were talking about some deep stuff earlier. I didn't mean to make it sound so heavy, he replied, a nervous chuckle escaping him. What did he really want? Her support or her understanding? It's okay, Michael. I think you're navigating a lot right now. Clara's tone softened, inviting him to share more. But does this new path you're considering align with what you truly want? Michael glanced back at Gia, who was casually leaning against a park bench, her energy unwavering. It almost felt like she was waiting to dissolve the apprehension he was wrestling with. But how could he step forward when his foundation felt so unstable? Could sharing his journey reveal strengths he never knew he had, or would it merely expose the fractures in his facade? Do you think it will help? He asked, looking back at Clara, hopeful yet uncertain. I think any path that encourages you to explore yourself is worth it. You have to confront what's been weighing you down, Michael. She sighed deeply, a shared vulnerability breaking through their dialogue. We all have our fears. Yours just seem a bit louder right now. Her words struck him, they spiraled into his consciousness, creating a tapestry of introspection. Michael had spent too long sidestepping his fears and wearing a mask crafted from expectations. But was he ready to dismantle that mask, to confront not just the perceptions of others but his own? Do you think I can actually do it? His voice cracked slightly with the weight of sincerity. Absolutely. But remember, being vulnerable isn't a sign of weakness, it's a step toward authentic strength. You just have to take the leap. Clara's eyes sparked with an earnest understanding that captivated him. There was something deeply profound about that moment, a shared understanding of the vulnerability that accompanies personal growth. Could he, just this once, step outside the shadows of his self-doubt? He had always thought of vulnerability as a liability, but perhaps it was the very thing that would provide clarity and connection. As Gia waved goodbye and promised to send him details about the group, he felt an undeniable shift, a crack in his once impenetrable wall. The path he stood upon felt less foreboding and more inviting. He could choose to navigate through pain and insecurity or hold on to them like old friends. Michael, Clara broke the stillness again, you mentioned that you feel like you might fail. What if this approach actually shows you how strong you really are? The question lingered, heavy with possibility and laden with challenge. What if embracing vulnerability would finally allow him to break away from the chains of past expectations? He inhaled deeply, a rush of resolve swelling within him. I guess we'll see. But even as he spoke those words, a different siren wailed in the distance, a reminder that change often invites chaos. What could this new vulnerability unravel? As he watched Clara begin to walk away, the night beckoning her home, he felt the unease gather. Once more, pulling him apart, leaving him with a burning question. Could he truly face the realities of his past, or would the weight of fear hold him captive once again? The evening air grew heavy as Michael walked home, with thoughts spiraling and turning like a restless tide. He could almost feel the weight of Clara's question embedding itself into his psyche. What if vulnerability could reveal strength? It clashed with a more familiar narrative, the one that whispered he should protect himself at all costs, that showing weakness would only invite judgment. Streetlights flickered overhead, casting fragmented shadows on the asphalt as he navigated the familiar route. He glanced down at his phone, the screen illuminating Gia's message. Looking forward to our first group session. We'll dive deep. The words buzzed in his mind. Would he really dive deep, or merely dip his toes in, hoping to avoid the swift currents? He remembered Clara's earnest gaze, the way her support felt like a buoy in turbulent waters, and it stirred something within him. What if he could take this step, not only for himself, but also as a model for authenticity for those around him? As a father, his actions carried weight. He was not merely Michael the individual but Michael the role model. Suddenly, the thought of his son, Lucas, pulled him back. The innocent eyes of a child who saw heroes in the faces of fathers. Did he want Lucas to inherit his aversion to vulnerability? To think that emotions were something to be stifled and concealed? A wave of resolve washed over him. Perhaps his own journey of openness could pave the way towards a more enriching relationship with his son. Upon arriving home, Michael dropped his keys into the bowl by the door with a hollow clink, signaling the end of the day but also the beginning of a crucial internal dialogue. He sank down onto the couch, the familiar cushions contouring around him, almost cradling him in a moment of comfort mixed with existential tension. Michael envisioned the group, envisioned himself sharing openly. A part of him quivered, but there was also a burgeoning curiosity. Wasn't this what he desired, an authentic community where people could connect and grow? He paused, allowing the thought to linger like a whisper. Could this possibility of connection overshadow the fear of exposure? As he reclined, he replayed conversations in his mind, especially those where vulnerability made others stronger. His own experience with Clara stuck. She placed herself at risk, emotionally engaged in a way most might avoid. If she could do it, why couldn't he? What if he was only a few steps away from discovering something miraculous about himself, a hidden competency that rested on the border of expression and fear? He remembered a time in college when he had led a project for his team, an unusual task that required creativity and coordination. Despite his natural hesitancy, he had risen to the occasion, motivating his peers not only through direction but by revealing his own struggles. Would self-disclosure once again serve as a source of strength? He couldn't ignore the echoes of that past victory, reclaiming that courage revealed deeper truths about his identity. A sudden sound disrupted his thoughts. It was Lucas, padding softly into the living room. The child's pajama-clad form brought a rush of warmth, dispelling some of his lingering doubts. "Dad, can you read me a story?" Lucas's voice was small yet confident, a demand laced with trust. In that moment, Michael realized how navigable this uncharted territory was, how taking the leap into vulnerability might also foster connection with his own child. "Of course, buddy," he replied, lifting Lucas onto the couch beside him. As he opened a worn storybook, the pages crinkling under their collective touch, a flicker of hope ignited within him. With his son snuggled close, Michael understood that change wouldn't happen overnight, but if vulnerability could build bridges rather than walls, it was a leap worth taking. As he lost himself in the story, the familiar words swirling into a tapestry of shared imagination, a quiet question formed in his mind. What was he truly willing to face in the group that awaited him? Little did he know that this journey would soon test his resolve in ways he couldn't anticipate, pushing him towards truths he had been avoiding for far too long. As dawn broke, Michael felt the weight of a new day pressing down on him, igniting a mixture of anticipation and dread. He stood in front of the mirror, scrutinizing his reflection. Was he ready for the group session? The remnants of last night's story reverberated through his mind, how letting down his guard might cultivate bonds not just with the members of the group but also within his family. With each passing minute, it was becoming increasingly clear that he was standing on the precipice of change, first for himself and then for Lucas. The thought both thrilled and terrified him. His palms started sweating as he fumbled through his closet, choices overloaded by the significance he attached to them. Ultimately, the simplest shirt won out. He needed to feel authentic, not performative. As he gathered his belongings, the echoes of Clara's voice rang steadily in his mind. What if vulnerability could reveal strength? The question no longer felt distant, it had nestled into the folds of his consciousness, demanding action. On his way to the session, each stoplight felt like an eternity, moments stretching sharply into questions about past failures and fears waiting to resurface. Who would be there? What would he reveal? As the red lights blinked in succession, he felt a twinge of nausea, but along with that discomfort blossomed a sense of determination. Each stoplight was watching, demanding him to make a choice. When he finally arrived at the meeting space, his pulse quickened. The door was just a barrier, but the thoughts of what lay behind it loomed larger. Could he truly share his struggles, or would he retreat into the comfort of silence? The question taunted him, and he wrestled with it as he stepped inside. The room was warm, individuals scattered in low conversations, creating an atmosphere thick with expectation. Michael took a deep breath and tried to steady his shaking hands. As he scanned the room, he could see faces filled with stories, some familiar, others strange. He caught sight of Gia, her reassuring smile made him feel slightly more anchored. "Glad you made it," she said, gesturing for him to join the circle that had begun to form. The seating arrangement felt intentionally open, as if inviting rawness into the dialogue. He had half a mind to slip out and retreat home, but a determined voice whispered, "Stay." As they began sharing, Michael's heart pounded against his chest like a caged animal desperate for freedom. The first few speakers shared their tales of hardship, loss, failure, betrayal. Each narrative draped a blanket of resonance across the room, but as it drew closer to him, he froze. When his turn finally arrived, a thick silence enveloped him. The gravity of vulnerability settled in his throat, squeezing tighter with every moment he hesitated. As he opened his mouth to speak, his past failures flashed before him, culled from years of avoiding emotional depth, avoidance being a shield for so long. In that pause, Michael dared to confront a painful truth: he had always tackled challenges with a facade of strength, neatly packaged under layers of sarcasm and detachment. What had shaped his self-portrayal, he pondered, if not a sturdy mistrust of connection? I struggle with being vulnerable," he finally admitted, feeling an unfamiliar weight lift as the words escaped him. I don't want my son to think that emotions are something to avoid, he continued, heart racing as he shared his desire for Lucas to grow in an environment where expressing feelings was encouraged. The group responded with nods of understanding, words flew back in support, each one tightening bonds formed by mutual revelation. For the first time, something inside Michael clicked, a presence of shared experience that shattered the confines of his fear. Voices rose softly around him, and they welcomed his admission as a strength rather than a weakness. As the session unfolded, Michael realized that strength did not need to be solitary. It wasn't unyielding walls dividing him from others but the bridges built from shared stories. He was no longer adrift in ambiguity, he was constructing his narrative and, for once, allowing others to help shape their journey together. But as the comfort settled in, a nagging realization flickered at the back of his mind. Was this newfound openness going to unravel threads that had tightly held his life together for so long? The last statement echoed in his consciousness. What would he inevitably lose as he gained this newfound connection? The question felt heavy, looming like a storm cloud ready to burst, urging him to confront the complexities ahead. With his breath hitching, Michael knew the most challenging part of this journey had just begun. Michael sat in the circle, enveloped by an air of camaraderie yet feeling a dull ache of uncertainty nestled in the pit of his stomach. Beneath the supportive words of the group lingered an oppressive fear. What if this vulnerability cost him everything he had ever known? As members continued to share, pouring out their hearts, he couldn't help but feel like an intruder in this realm of openness. Gia's words resonated, sharing is a strength, echoed in his mind like a mantra he needed to embrace. Yet, a shadow of doubt crept in. What if his moments of transparency revealed flaws that could fracture the fragile walls he deconstructed? Walls that, while stifling, provided a thread of security in his chaotic world. Through the gentle encouragement of the facilitator, the session deepened, exploring the nuanced layers of emotional expression. Michael observed others unfurl their stories, each weaving a complex tapestry of victory and pain. He felt a growing desire to shed his own layers, but the stakes felt impossibly high. Would this create space for Lucas to thrive or engulf them both in a turbulent sea of raw emotion? After the last speaker concluded, the facilitator led the group through a reflective exercise meant to ground their shared insights. Michael took a deep breath, letting words float to his mind. Encouraging himself silently, he reassured, "You can contribute." "I want to enable my son to express his emotions," Michael said slowly, the deliberate pace of his speech reflecting his cautious mindset. The weight of each syllable pressed against his chest, evoking a clarity he wasn't accustomed to. "But I don't know how to show him that vulnerability is not a weakness. How do I lead the way?" His question hung in the air, and a soft murmur rippled through the room. It was as though his admission acted as a conduit for others to grapple with similar concerns. A woman with striking red hair leaned in, her eyes illuminating a shared understanding. "We often think we need to hide our scars, but it's the very act of sharing them that helps others heal," she offered, her voice steady and compassionate. Michael absorbed each word like a lifeline, suddenly aware of the collective wisdom threading through the group. These rare moments of intimacy began to reshape his perception of parenthood, countering years of his belief that emotions were burdensome, uninviting guests that intruded upon better judgment. As he engaged in this dialogue, he recognized his own resilience. Perhaps, emotional transparency would not lead to destruction but rather cultivation. Wasn't that the essence of life, to risk in pursuit of deeper connections? The thought illuminated a path forward, igniting a flicker of hope. Yet, with insight coursing through his veins came an unsettling anxiety. What if this fundamental shift revealed faults in his relationship with others, especially Lucas? Each revelation he embraced during the session simultaneously summoned the specter of change. Could he accept the potential fallout? Would his family still see him as a strong figure if he bared his insecurities? Tension swirled within him, the question pressing heavily on his mind. He realized that many navigated similar crossroads, frightened yet yearning for genuine bonds. For the first time, vulnerability felt like a path worth traversing, but its uncertainty loomed like an ominous storm. With the session concluding, the facilitator encouraged a rooted sense of community, and Michael found himself flooded with emotion. The achievement of vocalizing his fears felt triumphant, yet uncertainty clung to the edges of his newfound clarity. As he made his way home, he stared blankly at the passing streetlights, their rhythmic blinking offering both solace and confusion. How would he convey this blossoming understanding to Lucas? What would unfold in their relationship as emotions danced into the open air, stripped of judgment but layered with vulnerability? Arriving home, Michael hesitated before stepping through the door. It felt almost surreal, like stepping onto a precipice. He could hear Lucas's laughter echoing within, filling the space with warmth. Could he truly share this new path without overwhelming his son? Would Lucas then feel the freedom Michael so desperately wanted for him? In that moment, one undeniable truth emerged. The time had come to face not only his fears but to dismantle the fortress of detachment he defortified over the years. And as he took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation that awaited, one question snagged in his mind: what if this journey wasn't just about transformation but also about redefining the legacy he would leave for Lucas? Michael stood at the threshold of his home, his heart racing and mind awash with possibilities, both daunting and exhilarating. The familiar warmth of the house filled with Lucas's laughter beckoned him, a stark contrast to the chill of uncertainty coiling within him. He knew there was no turning back. The time had come to redefine what it meant to be a father in the truest sense. Upon stepping inside, he was greeted by the sight of Lucas sprawled on the living room floor, bright markers scattered around him like confetti. His son was deeply engrossed in a drawing, animatedly narrating a story about an unlikely hero, a dragon who befriended a mouse. A smile brightened Michael's face at the innocence, yet the weight of his newfound resolve loomed large. "Hey, buddy," Michael called gently, crouching down beside him. "What are you creating today?" "A story," Lucas exclaimed with uncontained joy. "It's about friendship. Do you want to hear it?" "Absolutely," Michael replied, feeling an expanding warmth in his chest. He realized, if there was ever a time to express vulnerability, this was it. "But first, I want to share something with you." Lucas paused, head tilted as if assessing the gravity of his dad's tone. That simple action sparked a surge of both pride and anxiety within Michael. This was his moment. He drew in a steadying breath before continuing. "I've been thinking a lot about feelings lately and how it's okay for us to share them even when it's hard." "What do you mean?" Lucas asked, curiosity dancing in his big, innocent eyes. Michael hesitated, grappling with the line between honesty and overwhelming his son. Surrendering to the instinct to protect Lucas from discomfort was a conditioned reflex, but as he glanced at his son's unprotected eagerness for genuine connection, he felt a shift within himself. "I mean, sometimes, I feel sad or scared, just like you do. And I want you to know that it's okay to feel that way." The room grew quiet, charged with an unspoken intensity. Lucas, at such a tender age, seemed to intuitively grasp the gravity of their exchange. "Even superheroes get scared, right?" he replied, a flicker of understanding sparking in his eyes. "Exactly," Michael nodded, surprised by the simple wisdom reflected back to him. "Even superheroes need to share their fears. It helps them feel stronger." A weight began to lift within the space between them, and Michael felt his anxiety morph into an unexpected sense of empowerment. He wasn't denying his fears, he was acknowledging them, creating a bridge to his son. "What do you feel scared about, Dad?" Lucas asked, eyes wide and earnest. The question struck deep. For a moment, Michael felt exposed, yet the very act of vocalizing his truth had forged a pathway to deeper connection. "I'm scared that I won't always know how to help you when you're sad or confused." There it was, the raw honesty, unadorned and clear. Before he could brace himself for a potential flood of emotions, Lucas's small hand reached out, gripping Michael's. "Dad, you'll always try your best. That's what matters," he said, his voice imbued with reassurance. Michael's breath caught, and he realized how profound this moment was. Through sharing his vulnerability, he had equipped Lucas with the understanding that emotions were not meant to be concealed but embraced. For the first time, Michael envisioned a world where he could admit his fears without it diminishing his role as a father. However, alongside this newfound clarity, a darker shadow loomed. What if his honesty unleashed a torrent of emotions that were too much for his son? What if admitting weakness created fractures that were harder to repair? As these thoughts circled his mind, Michael knew he was on the cusp of a fundamental transformation. The legacy he wished to leave for Lucas was one of authenticity, but this journey was only beginning. Just then, Lucas stood, bouncing slightly with excitement. "Can I show you how to draw the dragon next?" The request was innocent, yet it beckoned for Michael to hone his skills, the skill of urging emotions into colors. On a page. Would he be able to translate his hopes, vulnerabilities, and fears into art? Of course, Michael replied, heart racing with both anticipation and dread. What if this became the avenue through which they would both explore their inner worlds? As they set to work on the drawing, the air thickened with the promise of connection. But one lingering question drummed insistently in Michael's mind. What lies ahead when vulnerability deepens not only their relationship but exposes the very fabric of their identities? As Michael leaned toward the blank paper, the array of markers swirling beside him transformed into tools of expression rather than mere colors. The absence of expectations allowed the space between father and son to feel potentially limitless. Each stroke of the marker he picked up served as a channel for conversation, the unspoken emotions and thoughts that often floated just below the surface. "Okay, show me how to draw the dragon, buddy," he said, trying to match Lucas's earlier enthusiasm. Lucas pounced back into action, demonstrating an exaggerated circular motion as he illustrated the dragon's body. "He has to be big and golden, like the sun," Lucas exclaimed, his excitement infectious. With each line, Michael felt a burgeoning sense of purpose inside him, a gentle reminder that their journey reciprocated something meaningful. As they drew, Michael's mind began to readjust the way he viewed vulnerability. He was not just laying bare his fears, he was crafting a shared narrative of resilience and growth, one that Lucas would take in with each coloring stroke. "Dad," Lucas interrupted, pausing mid-drawing, "do you remember when you said not knowing what to say when I'm sad is okay? Can I say something that might make you feel better?" Michael raised an eyebrow, intrigued and a bit nervous. This was the crux of what he wanted to impart, the idea that dialogue should never cease, that perspectives are fluid and not limited to age. "Of course, Lucas. What's on your mind?" Lucas's expression turned serious, a stark contrast to the animated nature of moments before. "Sometimes I'm scared you're going to leave. Just like my old friend, whose dad left," he said, the innocent awareness of childhood clashes against sobering adult realities. Michael froze. A wave of dread crashed over him. The thought of betrayal nestled cruelly with his feelings of inadequacy. I'm here, Lucas. I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, he felt the intimate nature of the conversation turn more serious, the stakes endlessly high. But vulnerability worked both ways. Facing his son's fears would require not just a stern promise but a sense of unwavering present connection. He had to be solid ground while allowing Lucas the freedom to express concerns. "Do you know why it makes me scared?" Lucas continued, his voice a gentle inquiry. "For you, it probably feels like uncertainty," Michael admitted candidly, realizing now that facing those fears required him to push the boundaries of their dialogue even further. If Lucas could articulate fear, then he could, too, weave them into a bond reinforced by understanding rather than avoided out of fear. "Yeah, I feel it all the time, like the dragon is lost in a storm." Lucas perched his chin on his clasped hands, dreamily inspecting the drawing unfolding. "But I think, if I learn to draw him right, we can find his way home. Just like how you and I can face storms together, right?" The conversation hung in the air, a vivid testament to their emotional exploration. It struck Michael that this innocent insight encapsulated so many truths about their relationship. They would rise against storms, wielding creativity as a tool of connection. But as Michael contemplated the depths of Lucas's metaphor, a nagging pressure gripped him. The more he revealed, the more he realized how little he was prepared for the revelations yet to come. Their journey had only just begun, and with every unguarded moment, the potential for deeper conflict loomed. "Lucas," he said, voice steady despite the burgeoning uncertainty swirling inside, "I need to learn how to be the best dad for you, too. What other fears do you have?" The questioning catapulted them instantly into more profound revelations, stitching their emotional fabric tighter. What would Lucas let slip next? What truths lay just beyond reach, waiting to shape their future in ways neither could foresee? As they traversed this uncertain terrain, Michael felt the urge to protect his son from life's turbulence fought against an undeniable yearning to enrich their relationship through each unveiled emotion. The tipping point hovered tantalizingly close, daring him to plunge deeper. What would happen if he fully embraced their fears? Would they fortify their bond or shatter it in uncharted territory? Determined, he looked at Lucas, ready to illuminate another layer of their journey. But the moment was electrified by a question Michael had yet to explore all too carefully. Was he ready to face not only Lucas's fears but his own unrelenting doubts? The silence loomed thick, pregnant with unspoken words. What awaited beyond this moment of honesty? Would uncovering one fear bring forth others, reshaping their lives along the way? Days turned into weeks, each moment unfolding a deeper understanding of himself and his relationship with Lucas. Michael found himself increasingly leaning into vulnerability, no longer fearful of the discomfort it brought. Each evening spent drawing alongside Lucas revealed unexpected beauty in their exchanges, in the way their conversations opened up new dimensions of thought and feeling that had previously lingered in silence. They transformed their late hours together into a ritual, art supplying a medium that broke down walls once fortified by fear and resentment. Lucas would share his small fears, worries about school or friendships, and Michael would mirror his son's honesty, weaving his own trepidations about being a good father or facing the tumult of life's uncertainties. This collaborative pilgrimage did more than build their bond, it reshaped their individual identities. One Friday night, as they were finishing a particularly colorful dragon, Lucas's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Dad, I'm brave like the dragon," he exclaimed, beaming at the art they had created together. In Lucas's eyes, Michael recognized the boldness he had always aspired to embody. He felt a swell of pride. "You absolutely are brave, buddy. And you know what? So am I," he said, conviction coloring his voice. It was then Michael realized how far he had come. Vulnerability had not done what he feared, it hadn't unraveled his role but established it firmly in a new light. Daily, he became more adept at navigating the intricate dance of parenthood, recognizing that by covering emotions under a cloak of indifference, he had stunted both his growth and Lucas's. Yet, that night's introspection was tinged with a lingering question: what had he truly achieved? It wasn't just about seeing progress in communication, it was about confronting the hard truths of courage, recognizing the moments in life when the stakes soared high yet allowed him to confront, discuss, and ultimately grow alongside his son. And that growth culminated in a courageous act. Michael signed Lucas up for an art showcase at the community center, the prospect sending waves of apprehension through him. What if no one showed up? What if people didn't understand what my art says? He thought. But then, the clarity of vulnerability flooded back into his reasoning. This was about more than art, it was about sharing emotions, a channel of connection that echoed through lines and colors. On the day of the showcase, the room buzzed with activity. Parents chatted, children darted about, and amid it all stood Michael, full of both anxiety and pride. He had invited Clara to come, a small acknowledgement of the transformation their conversations had facilitated. As he searched the crowd for her figure, a familiar warmth filled him. Finally, Clara arrived, a smile gracing her face as she evaluated the artwork arranged on the walls. For the first time, Michael could see her admiration rather than judgment, and unexpected validation that cemented his resolve. As they exchanged small talk, the conversation turned to the pieces displayed. "You're really capturing feelings here, Michael," she remarked, her candor remarkable and unguarded. That recognition acted as fuel, pushing him to share openly. "It's about vulnerability, you know. I want Lucas to grow up knowing it's okay to feel and share." Their eyes locked in mutual understanding, allowing years of past grievances to dissolve in the embrace of this new revelation. When it was Lucas's turn to guide Clara through his art, Michael felt an overwhelming sense of pride. His son's innocence mingling with wisdom was a testament to Michael's internal journey, the legacy of openness that they would build together. Watching Lucas explain each piece with clarity showcased not only the innocence of childhood but an understanding of emotion that transcended age. As they packed up to leave, Clara looked at Michael, her expression contemplative. "You've come a long way, Michael. I'm proud of you." Her words quivered with authenticity and acceptance, they echoed deep within him, reverberating against the walls he had meticulously dismantled. The journey reflecting in their eyes wasn't merely about friendship or reconciliation, it was about synergy, connection, and knowing the exploration of emotion was far from easy. But however rocky the road, it was painted on a canvas rich with hues of growth, authenticity, and love. In the days that followed, the bond with Lucas deepened further. They began to engage in sharing their days, dissecting experiences through art, and nurturing emotional literacy. Each encounter solidified Michael's position, a father ready to stand firm against both storms outside and the tempest within. As Michael sat at the kitchen table, a new sketch before him, a dragon and a boy camping under the stars, he felt enveloped in profound gratitude and recognition of the journey undertaken. This wasn't just personal transformation, it was a pact of mutual growth forged with the love and trust of his son. Determined now more than ever, he recognized this new chapter was only the beginning. Each moment filled with humility, grace, and acceptance proved that weakness unveiled could foster unyielding strength. And with this understanding, he sat ready to face whatever lay ahead, not merely as Michael, the independent figure burdened with fear, but as a father equipped with courage and vulnerability, wholly prepared to embrace the intricate dance of life and parenthood. To seize triumph over fear, to achieve resilience through vulnerability, this was the path unveiled. Now, as you contemplate your own obstacles and transformations, let Michael's journey inspire you to traverse your fears, to lean into vulnerability even when the stakes are high. Discover the untapped potential born from connection and courage. So, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will touch your heart and challenge your understanding of growth. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach those who need to see these breakthroughs. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this journey. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share and be part of our evolving community.